Follow me through the beginning of the end. This is American Contrarian, home of the painful truth. Hoard your popcorn, you're going to need the calories. It's May 22nd, the stock market is crashing and we still don't see a bottom. Food and gas prices have doubled in a few months. Our grocery stores don't have any baby formula, and apparently we're running out of diesel fuel. The war in Ukraine has shifted from a local conflict to an open proxy war between Russia and the West, and has already dragged on too long for there to be any quick and easy exit strategy. The battle lines for World War III have been drawn across Europe and Asia, while domestically, crime soars and we drift closer to civil war. Is this a coincidence? If a leaked audio tape of Chinese generals discussing plans of launching the final war by November of this year are real, maybe not. The Buffalo shooting, a tool of division and censorship. On May 14, 2022, a disturbed 18-year-old named Peyton S. Gendron committed a racially motivated mass shooting at a Tops supermarket in Buffalo, New York. In the days following this tragedy, the corporate press acted quickly to shift blame to Tucker Carlson. This should have been a moment of shared grief as a nation, where we all recognized and condemned an act of senseless violence together. Instead, this administration and its pawns in the press used it as kindling on a cultural fire. I implore everyone who hears this, love your neighbor, be understanding, forgive. They have made hatred and division socially advantageous because they want us to be ineffectual. They want us to be apathetic, impotent, hopelessly suspicious of one another. And so far, they've gotten more of what they wanted than I had hoped possible. Late last night, on the 18th of May, the House passed a domestic terrorism prevention bill that, according to the AP, would be required to produce a joint report every 6 months that assesses and quantifies domestic terrorism threats nationally, including threats posed by white supremacist and neo-Nazi groups. And the Congressional Budget Office estimates that this bill would cost about $105 million over 5 years, with most of the money going towards hiring staff. They would be required to build offices for that staff, too. Federal police hunting domestic terrorists in every state, releasing a report every 6 months. What happens if they don't have anything to show in 6 months? Are these employees going to ask that their agency be disbanded? Of course not. The feds are going to need a lot more white supremacists than there actually are to justify this new agency's existence. So believe me, they'll create them. And you might be one of them. This isn't the first racially motivated shooting of the year, but it was the first shooting publicized by the media as racially motivated, and was the justification for this new domestic terrorism bill, because Peyton Gendron was a white lunatic targeting black people, and the other shooter, Frank James, was a black lunatic targeting white people in a subway shooting barely a month earlier. Frank James did not fit the narrative that white supremacy is the greatest threat to democracy in America, so the story was quickly buried and the race of the shooter was barely, if ever, mentioned by the liberal media. Similar to the November 21st Waukesha, Kansas massacre, in which the media reported an SUV drove through a Christmas parade, killing 6, including an 8-year-old boy. The narrative I keep hearing after this shooting in Buffalo is, if he had been black, the shooter, he wouldn't have walked away alive. Even though both Frank James, New York subway shooter, and Darrell Brooks, the Waukesha Christmas massacre, are alive in police custody right now, and unlike Peyton Gendron, have not been charged with hate crimes. In both of these cases, the assailants were black supremacists. This was made explicitly clear by their own social media accounts, yet the media did not report that, or even the race of the shooter in headlines, which is fine. If your policy is to always de-escalate racial tensions, I support that. But let's read some headlines from this story. Opinion from the Washington Post. The black victims of the Buffalo shooting were killed by white supremacy. The New Yorker, making sense of the racist mass shooting in Buffalo. Vox, a neo-Nazi idea to spark a race war, inspired the Buffalo killings. The New York Times, Washington officials condemn white supremacist ideology and its ties to the far right. And my absolute favorite from Rolling Stone, the Buffalo shooter isn't a lone wolf, he's a mainstream Republican. See what I mean? By you might be next. Hope you're not a Republican. The corporate press has functioned as the arm of the Democratic Party, or vice versa, since the 2016 election, and are now calling their political opposition mass murderers. Why? Because people unhinged enough to believe that will burn the country down if that opposition takes power. They started drilling in the notion that Putin supporters question election integrity before there was any war with Russia. Now that there is, the association between questioning elections and the enemy is already constructed, and the leap to charges of treason is so short. A story from the New York Post in regards to this, that it just seems too good to be true. I find it, I don't know, convenient. Here. The New York Post, Buffalo shooting victim decried gun violence in open letter published last year. One of the victims slain in Saturday's hate-fueled mass shooting at a Buffalo supermarket had penned an open letter last year pleading for stricter gun controls. Catherine Massey, who was among the 10 people allegedly killed by avowed white supremacist Peyton Gendron in the weekend slaughter, was a local activist who sent a letter decrying gun violence to the Buffalo News, which published her missive on May 30th, 2021. This is it. The recent news story about Erie County legislator April Baskin's cousin, who was fatally gunned down near the district office, is another gut-wrenching account of the escalating gun violence in Buffalo and many major U.S. cities. Massey, who was 72 when she was killed, wrote in the piece, referencing a county legislator's fatally shot cousin. There needs to be extensive federal action/legislation to address all aspects of the issue. And then she goes on, wrote that universal background checks and a ban on assault rifles aren't enough to stop gun violence, and that legislators need to do more to crack down on out-of-state arms trafficking. Okay, so, yeah, maybe it's just me, but I'm not saying that she didn't write that. I'm just saying that it's the most sympathetic possible victim they could find. A 72-year-old black woman in Buffalo, New York. Gets killed by the least sympathetic person, an 18-year-old white kid with an AR-15, the gun that they're trying to ban more than anything else. I am not saying that I think this is fake in any way. I don't. I'm just saying there's a lot of questions as to this story, this thing she wrote. I don't know if that's legit. I'd have to see it printed in print that was released then, because you can't believe anything these people say anymore. Alright, on to Ukraine and Russia. Surrender in Mariupol, contradicting our media's coverage of the war. According to our media, Russia's just been getting their ass kicked. Their soldiers don't even want to go into the battle. Some of them have been killing themselves before they go in there. It's all a bunch of bullshit. Don't believe anything they're fucking saying. Russians are some bad motherfuckers, and they love Putin, whether you want to believe it or not. He's got 80% of the public support. So, believe me, and he's got the Donbass region of Ukraine. Like, they want to be part of Russia. They don't want to be a part of NATO. Because Ukraine isn't even a fucking country anymore. I mean, it hasn't been since 2014. You don't understand that? Watch my hour-long video on it. Monkeypox. Remember that truck that tipped over a while back, and the CDC had to go in and round up all of the monkeys because they were headed to a CDC lab, and the truck tipped over and they got out, and now there's monkeypox. I don't know. Call me crazy. Are we in for a round 2 of COVID because of this monkeypox? Well, are masks coming back? I don't know. Why did the masks go away in the first place? Because they realized that keeping them was making them extremely unpopular. Now that getting rid of them doesn't seem to have made them any more popular, and this is X's and O's game. Either have them or don't. Do I think they might bring them back in an attempt to fear some votes into existence? Maybe. If there's an election, maybe. Alright, next story. The fall of the American Empire has already begun and can't be stopped. The good news is, maybe it shouldn't be stopped. The bad news is, we're not guaranteed anything better after it falls. Considering the causes, it'll probably be much, much worse. At least, in the short term. I don't know what'll happen in the long term, but if you stock up on food and bullets and gas, things that I do not have the money and resources to do, you should be alright. So, I think that we're in for a rough couple years in the future. I don't know how far in the future, and I really hope I'm wrong. I hope that life continues to be this easy, and I don't know, actually. I'm not sure if I believe that. Where have I been? Well, I haven't made a video in a while, everybody, because I've been working a lot, and I made a Twitter thinking I would extend my my reach. Maybe I'd get some new people checking out the videos and stuff. But there's a lot of porn on Twitter, and I relapsed on pornography. Something that I personally believe is more destructive than any all-natural intoxicant on Earth. Any one that people want, at least. Because we are inundated with it. It's everywhere I fucking go. You go on Instagram, porn, Twitter, porn. In fact, I was trying to reach out to more like-minded political people and ended up looking at extremely filthy porn. And losing my own self-respect in the process. I've had plenty of issues with addiction in my life. I did not have a stable childhood, one could say. I never lived in the same place more than 9 months. Yeah, because I moved constantly back and forth between the broken home. And when I was 9, I am that first. I grew up with the internet coming into its what it is now. I started looking at porn. My dad didn't think it was a big deal. I think he was just happy I wasn't gay. So yeah, fucking, I relapsed on porn. That's where I've been. I'm deleting my Twitter, and gonna try not to do that. That's why I'm telling you. Try and make some accountability. Alright, everybody. Take care of yourself. Stock up. Get some emergency food supplies, because we are going to have shortages of everything. We are going to have rolling blackouts. If you live in a really cold place, prepare in whatever way necessary. Alright, that's it. Fuck.